Before we begin, let me ask you something. What is the one hard thing you keep avoiding? You already know the answer, and today I'll show you how the samurai dealt with that same battle. There is always one hard thing you keep avoiding, a message you still haven't replied to, a habit you keep promising you'll start tomorrow, a responsibility that sits on your chest like a quiet weight. And every day you walk past it, telling yourself you'll begin when you finally feel ready. But readiness never comes. The samurai knew this feeling well, and they learned something we have forgotten, that the mind does not become strong before action. It becomes strong because of it. So before anything else, let me show you the truth they lived by, and the way they faced every hard thing without fear. There is a place deep within you where the hard thing waits. It does not shout. It does not demand. It simply rests there, silent and heavy, like a stone at the bottom of a cold stream. You know it is there. You have known for some time, and yet you walk past it day after day, telling yourself that tomorrow will be different, that tomorrow you will begin. But tomorrow never comes. The stone remains, and so do you, unchanged, staring at the task that refuses to move on its own. The ancient samurai understood this. They lived in a world where survival demanded action, where hesitation could mean the end of everything. But they did not conquer difficulty through force alone. They did not scream at the mountain to move, nor did they burn themselves out in a single desperate charge. Instead, they walked a quieter path, one that moved like water over stone, slow and patient, wearing down the impossible with nothing more than presence and time. They knew something that you and I have forgotten. They knew that the mind does not need to be broken, it needs to be guided, like a young horse learning to trust the rider, or a bamboo shoot bending in the wind without snapping. Let me take you back to a time when the morning mist still clung to the wooden floors of a dojo high in the mountains. There was a young apprentice there, barely old enough to carry the weight of a real blade. His name does not matter. What matters is that he had been given a task. Every morning before the sun cleared the ridge, he was to carry water from the stream to the garden, one wooden bucket at a time. It was not glamorous work. It was not the swift clash of steel he had imagined when he first arrived. It was only water and distance and the ache in his shoulders that grew sharper with each step. For weeks he did this without complaint, but inside, something began to rot. He watched the older students practice their forms, sharp and precise, while he trudged back and forth with his bucket. He watched the master sit in stillness, eyes closed, as if the world itself bowed to him. And the apprentice thought to himself, when will I be worthy? When will I move beyond this? He began to rush. He spilled water. He grew careless. And one morning, as he stumbled on the path, the bucket tipped and everything he had carried spilled into the dirt. The master was standing at the edge of the garden when it happened. He did not scold. He did not raise his voice. He only watched as the boy stood there, chest heaving, staring at the dark stain in the earth. After a long silence, the master spoke, and his voice was soft as falling snow. "You are angry at the water," he said. The boy shook his head. "I am angry at myself." The master smiled faintly. "Then you are angry at the water, because you believe it should not be heavy. You believe the path should not be long. You believe the task should be easier than it is. And so You fight what is already here. The boy did not understand, not at first, but the master continued. The water does not ask to be carried. The path does not ask to be walked. They simply are, and you in this moment are the one who carries. That is all. If you can accept this, the burden becomes lighter. If you cannot, it will crush you, no matter how strong you become. This is the first teaching. The samurai did not wait for the hard thing to feel easy. They did not wait for inspiration or passion or the perfect moment. They simply began. And they began with the smallest step imaginable, so small that failure was almost impossible. They called this Kaizen, though the word itself is less important than the truth it holds. A great task is not completed in one motion. It is completed in 1,000 small motions, each so simple that the mind does not revolt, each so brief that time itself seems to soften. Think of the apprentice again. The next morning, he returned to the stream. But this time, he did not think about the garden. He did not think about the weight of the full bucket or the length of the path. He thought only of filling the bucket, of the sound of water lapping at the wood, of the way the surface rippled and stilled. That was all. One breath, one action, and when the bucket was full, he lifted it, not with anger, but with calm attention. He took one step, then another. And when his shoulders began to ache, he did not curse them. He simply noticed. He breathed. He continued. This is how the samurai lived. They did not ask themselves to be perfect. They asked themselves to be present. They understood that the mind is like a restless child, always reaching for what is not here, always fearing what might come. And so they trained it, gently again and again, to return to the single moment that exists, the breath, the step, the swing of the blade, nothing more. There is a teaching that says the bamboo bends because it does not resist the wind. If it were rigid, it would break. If it were careless, it would be uprooted. But because it moves with what comes, it endures. The samurai carried this wisdom into everything they did. When a task was hard, they did not harden themselves against it. They softened. They found the rhythm within the difficulty, the way a boat finds the current in a wild river. They did not fight the water. They moved with it. You have felt this, perhaps, in small moments. When you stop trying to force the words onto the page and simply let them come. When you stop gripping the problem so tightly and allow the solution to reveal itself. This is not weakness. This is not surrender. It is something deeper. It is the understanding that effort and ease are not enemies. They are partners. And the samurai knew that the greatest strength comes not from tension, but from flow. But there is another layer to this. The samurai did not do hard things because they loved them. They did hard things because they had to be done. Duty was not a burden to them. It was a compass. When the mind screamed for rest, when the body begged for relief, they did not ask whether they felt like continuing. They asked only, what must be done? And then they did it, not with resentment, not with pride, simply because the moment required it. This is difficult for us to understand now. We have been taught to follow our feelings, to honor our desires, to seek happiness above all else. And there is beauty in that. But the samurai understood something we have forgotten. They understood that the mind follows action, not the other way around. You do not wait to feel brave before you act with courage. You act with courage, and the feeling follows. You do not wait to feel strong before you lift the weight. You lift the weight and the strength is built. Imagine the apprentice again, months later. His shoulders are broader now. The path no longer seems so long. He does not spill the water. But more than this, something inside him has changed. He no longer resents the task. He has learned to find stillness within it, to let his mind rest in the rhythm of his steps, the swing of the bucket, the cool touch of the morning air. He has learned that the doing itself is enough, that there is no destination where he will finally arrive and be free. There is only this: the water, the path, the breath. This is the secret the samurai carried, and it is the secret they offer to you now. You do not need to become someone else to do the hard thing. You do not need to wait for some future version of yourself, stronger or wiser or more prepared. You only need to begin, and you begin with the smallest action, not the whole mountain, just the first stone, not the entire page, just the first word. Not the whole hour, just the first breath. Let me give you something you can hold. Tomorrow morning when you wake, there will be something waiting for you. Something you have been avoiding. Do not think about finishing it. Do not think about doing it perfectly. Think only of the first small step. If it is a task you must complete, ask yourself, what is the smallest action I can take right now? If it is a habit you wish to build, ask yourself, what is the simplest version of this I can do today? And then do only that. 1 minute, 1 movement, 1 breath. And when it is done, let it be done. Do not ask for more. Do not demand perfection. Simply notice that you began. And tomorrow, begin again. The samurai practiced this every day, in everything they did. They did not wait for great battles to test their discipline. They found it in the way they tied their sandals, in the way they prepared their tea, in the way they cleaned their blade. Every small action was a reflection of the whole. Every moment was an opportunity to practice presence, patience, and calm attention. And so, when the hard thing came, when the battle arrived or the mountain loomed, they were ready. Not because they were special, but because they had trained themselves, quietly in 1,000 small moments, to meet difficulty without fear. There is a saying from the old teachings. It says, "The task becomes lighter once begun." This is true. Not because the task itself changes, but because you change. The moment you take the first step, something shifts. The weight you imagined was unbearable becomes simply a weight. The path you thought was endless becomes simply a path. And you discover, as the samurai did, that you are stronger than you believed. Not because you are without fear, but because you walked anyway. So let the hard thing remain where it is, for now. Let it sit like a stone at the bottom of the stream. But know that you do not need to move it all at once. You only need to reach down, to touch it, to acknowledge that it is there. And then, when you are ready, you take the first small step, not for glory, not for praise, simply because the moment asks it of you. And in that step, you will find something the samurai knew well. You will find that the path forward is not as dark as you feared. You will find that you are not alone. And you will find, in the quiet center of your own heart, the strength to continue. The dawn always comes. The bamboo always bends. And you, like the apprentice with his bucket, will carry what must be carried, 1 step at a time, until the garden is full.